I paid for my family's dinners for years. Wine. Celebrations. You've got it, right? They smiled. At my brother's engagement dinner, I finally said no. The table went silent. The engagement didn't survive the night. I folded the receipt from Mason's last restaurant bill and slipped it into my wallet with the others. 37 dinners in 2 years. Each one the same story. Mason ordering wine I couldn't pronounce while I calculated whether my credit card could handle another round. Eli's got it, he'd say with that practiced smile, the one that made waitresses linger and parents beam. He's the responsible one. Responsible. The word tasted like copper in my mouth. My apartment felt smaller tonight, cramped with the weight of tomorrow's engagement dinner. Mason had called 3 times, each conversation a masterclass in casual manipulation. The venue was expensive. Brooke's parents would be impressed. Family meant everything. I opened my laptop and checked my account balance. The numbers stared back, unforgiving. Rent due in a week, the car payment, student loans that followed me like shadows. My phone buzzed. Mason again. Just confirming you're good for tomorrow, brother. You know how important this is. I knew. I always knew. The family gatherer, the check grabber, the one who made things smooth. 34 years of making things smooth for everyone else. I'll be there, I said. Perfect. Brooke's so excited to have you there. She keeps saying how lucky I am to have such a generous brother. Generous. Another word that cut. After he hung up, I sat in the dark, staring at the receipt collection. Each one a small surrender, a moment when I chose peace over pride. Tomorrow would be different, I told myself. Tomorrow I'd speak up. But I'd told myself that 36 times before. The rooftop restaurant gleamed with the kind of casual elegance that charged $50 for pasta. I arrived first, as always, checking my phone for the reservation details Mason had texted at the last minute. Eli! Brooke appeared beside me, radiant in a way that made me understand why Mason had proposed. You look wonderful. She hugged me, and for a moment I felt included, valued. Then Mason swept in with our parents trailing behind, and I became invisible again. The Sullivan party, Mason announced to the hostess. We have the corner table. The corner table, the best view in the restaurant. I wondered how much this would cost. Dad clapped Mason on the shoulder. Look at this place, son. You've done well for yourself. Mom beamed. Brooke, darling, you're glowing. I followed them to the table, watching as they arranged themselves around the celebration. Mason pulled out Brooke's chair. Dad helped Mom with her jacket. I stood there, waiting. Oh, Eli, the hostess said, noticing me. There's a spot at the end. The end, facing the wall while the others shared the view. I sat down and picked up my phone, pretending to check messages while they toasted Mason's success, Brooke's beauty, their bright future together. What do you think, Eli? Brooke asked suddenly. About the wedding venue? I looked up, realizing I'd missed the entire conversation. It sounds perfect. Mason laughed. He wasn't even listening, lost in that phone again. The table chuckled. Familiar territory. Put it away, Mom said gently. This is family time. I slipped the device into my pocket and smiled, always smiling. The bill arrived on a silver tray, discreet and inevitable. $283, plus tip. I watched Mason's eyes slide past it, his attention already shifting to dessert menus and after-dinner plans. Dad studied the wine list for next time. Mom fussed with Brooke's engagement ring, admiring the stone in the candlelight. The server waited, professional, patient, used to these moments. I reached for my wallet, muscle memory guiding my hand. The key card from my office fell out, clattering onto the table. I picked it up, feeling its weight. Access, belonging, respect earned through competence, not birthright. Just put it on my card, I said, the words automatic. But something stopped me. Maybe it was the key card in my hand, reminder of a world where I mattered. Maybe it was the receipt collection at home, evidence of my own diminishment. Maybe it was 34 years of being the responsible one, while others took credit for the grace. I put my wallet away. Actually, no. The table went quiet. Mason looked up from his dessert menu, confused. What do you mean, no? He asked, laughing uncertainly. I mean, no. I'm not paying tonight. Mom's face flushed. Eli, don't be dramatic. I'm not being dramatic. I'm being honest. For once. Dad cleared his throat. Son, this isn't the time. When is the time? I stood up, surprising myself with my steadiness. When is it ever my time? Mason's charm flickered. Eli, come on. We're celebrating here. You're celebrating. I'm just the bank. Brooke touched Mason's arm, her expression shifting as understanding dawned. She looked at me differently now, seeing something she'd missed before. The server stepped closer, sensing the tension. I placed my key card on the table. You want to celebrate? Pay for it yourselves. I made it to the elevator before my hands started shaking. Behind me, the restaurant buzzed with damage control. Mason's voice carried over the other diners, smooth and practiced, explaining away his brother's sudden breakdown. Stress at work, financial troubles, nothing serious. The elevator doors closed, cutting off his performance. My phone rang immediately. Mason, then Mom, then Dad. I let them go to voicemail, each ring a small victory. At home, I spread the old receipts across my kitchen table, physical evidence of my own erasure. Each one signed in my careful handwriting, each one a moment I chose their comfort over my dignity. The latest receipt would be different, someone else's signature, someone else's burden. My phone buzzed with texts, family group chat exploding with concern, confusion, disappointment, the usual suspects saying the usual things, Mason spinning the narrative, painting me as unstable, unreliable, Mom trying to smooth things over, Dad suggesting I needed help. Only one message made me pause. Brooke. Are you okay? That took courage. I stared at the screen. When was the last time someone in my family had called me courageous? My laptop chimed with an email. Work crisis, naturally. The kind of emergency that would normally send me scrambling, eager to prove my worth through competence and availability. Tonight, I closed the laptop without reading it. The silence felt foreign. No family drama to manage, no crisis to solve, no one to rescue from the consequences of their choices. I gathered up the receipts and dropped them in the trash. 37 pieces of evidence that I'd been complicit in my own diminishment. Tomorrow would bring consequences. Mason's anger, Mom's disappointment, the family's collective confusion at my sudden refusal to play my assigned role. But tonight, for the first time in years, I belonged to myself. Brooke called at 7 in the morning. The engagement's off, she said without preamble. I set down my coffee, processing. I'm sorry. Are you? Because I'm not sure I am. Her voice carried something I'd never heard before when she talked about Mason. Clarity. Last night, after you left, he spent 2 hours explaining why you were wrong, why you were selfish, why family should come first. She paused. He never once asked why you'd reached your limit. I listened, phone pressed to my ear, watching sunrise paint my apartment walls. He paid the bill, finally. But he was furious. Said you'd embarrassed him in front of my parents. Said you'd always been jealous of his success. The familiar sting of Mason's interpretation. Everything filtered through his needs, his perspective, his wounded pride. Brooke. I started thinking about our relationship. Really thinking. How many times he's mentioned your generosity. How convenient it's been, having a brother who always picks up the slack. My doorbell rang. Through the peephole, I saw Mom standing in the hallway, her face tight with purpose. I have to go, I told Brooke. Eli? Thank you for showing me what I couldn't see. Mom entered like a storm system, all concerned energy and maternal authority. She surveyed my apartment with critical eyes, as if my living space might explain my behavior. "We need to talk," she said. "I'm listening." "What happened last night was unacceptable. Mason is devastated, your father is disappointed, and poor Brooke broke up with him." Mom stopped mid-sentence. "What?" "This morning, she called it off." The news hit her like a physical blow. She sank into my chair, suddenly looking older. "Because of last night?" "Because of 34 years of last nights." Mom cried in my kitchen while I made her tea. Not the elegant tears of disappointment I'd seen before, but raw grief for something she was only now beginning to understand. Her hands shook as she accepted the mug. "I failed you," she said quietly. The words hung between us, unexpected and profound. "Mom, no, let me say this. I failed you as a mother. We all did." She looked around my apartment, seeing it properly for the first time. The careful budget evident in every choice, the small space that was mine alone, the life I'd built while supporting theirs. Mason was always so charming, so easy to love. He made us feel proud just by existing. But you? She wiped her eyes. You made everything work. You solved problems before we knew they existed. You were so reliable, we stopped seeing the cost. I sat across from her, keycard still on the counter where I'd dropped it the night before. Evidence of the life I'd built separate from their expectations. "I don't know how to fix this," she said. "You can't. But you can stop making it worse." She nodded, understanding dawning. "No more assumptions. No more automatic expectations. And no more enabling Mason's behavior. He needs to face consequences for once." Her phone buzzed. Mason, probably. She looked at the screen, then deliberately set it aside. "He's an adult. He can handle his own crisis." The afternoon brought more calls, more family drama swirling around Mason's broken engagement. But Mom stayed with me, learning to see me as a person rather than a function. We talked about my job, my goals, the future I wanted to build. For the first time in years, I felt like her son instead of her solution. When she finally left, she hugged me at the door. "I'm proud of you," she said. "I should have said that more." 3 weeks later, I met Brooke for coffee. She looked different without Mason's shadow, more herself somehow, confident in a way that wasn't performance. "How are you holding up?" I asked. "Better than I expected. Turns out I was doing a lot of emotional work I didn't even realize." She smiled. "Sound familiar?" We sat in comfortable silence, two people recovering from the same family dynamic in different ways. "Mason's been calling," she said eventually, "wanting to reconcile, promising to change. And? I told him to start by paying you back, for all those dinners." I laughed, genuinely surprised. "You didn't." "I did. He said that was between you and him. I said that was exactly the problem." My phone buzzed. Work again, but this time I checked it without anxiety. The crisis could wait. I was learning to distinguish between urgency and importance, between others' chaos and my own peace. "Any regrets?" Brooke asked. I thought about it. The family group chat was quieter now. Dad had called twice, actually asking about my life instead of needing something fixed. Mason was managing his own problems for once, learning skills he should have developed years ago. The receipt from that night sat framed on my desk at home, not as a trophy, but as a reminder. A moment when I chose myself over their comfort, my truth over their convenience. "None," I said. Brooke raised her coffee cup. "To new beginnings." "To boundaries," I countered. We clinked mugs, two people who'd learned the difference between being needed and being valued. The afternoon stretched ahead of us, full of possibilities we were finally free to explore. My keycard caught the light through the coffee shop window, a reminder of the life I'd built through my own competence. Access earned, not given. Respect claimed, not begged for. For the first time in 34 years, I belonged entirely to myself.